What's good? It's Raw Nourishment. And today, I'm going to be covering Confessions of a Mask by Yukio Mishima. So, this book is about a homosexual man in World War II Japan dealing with issues surrounding his individuality and what it means to be yourself. The book ain't too big. It's only about like 250 pages or so, right? It's thrifted, by the way. It's thrifted. I don't know. $5, bro. $5 for this is steal. Yeah, so it's a really good book. And it really delves into the main character's psyche. And I think it's interesting because it's almost like an autobiographical work, mirroring a lot of Mishima's own life. The main character, Kochan, a lot of his ideas are Mishima's ideas. So I'm going to do a little summary of the book and 3 main points: how we all wear masks and our struggle with self-identity, how we fool ourselves into maturity and the trap of consciousness. Are we to blame for our impulses? So for the quick plot summary for the book, now a lot of the book is to do with Kochan's mind. So in the beginning of the book, Kochan has a little monologue about how he claims to have remembered his own birth. And as a kid, Kochan grew up very weak, very frail, right? Which led to him getting taken care of by his grandma instead of his other family members in his childhood house, in his childhood home. He kind of grows his interest in like traditionally feminine things. Now, he goes around like dressing up like a woman. After some time, he discovers this painting of Saint Sebastian. He's a martyr in the Bible that was kind of like stuck against a tree with a bunch of arrows pierced into his body, blood leaking out. And this kind of thing, it kind of awakened Kochan's sexual desires. He kind of grows this fascination towards men in or near destruction, like bleeding out, dying, getting killed. All these things have Kochan salivating, But this is kind of where his homosexuality starts, because he goes on about the crushes that he's had, ranging everywhere from random fishermen and chores boys that he would come across on the streets, to this older classmate of his named Omi, who he's more developed than the other boys, like physically, stronger. And then so he goons a bunch, right? He's a top tier gooner, to the painting of Saint Sebastian, to the imagination of Omi, to all these men that he's had crushes on. Oh, and Joan of Arc too, who he thought was a man in one of the drawings. He goons to that shit too. The war is still going on, and he grows close to this one friend. And I think it was while visiting his house, he hears this piano getting played. And it turns out it was his friend's little sister. Now her name is Sonoko, right? She's described to be a tall, graceful kind of girl, kind of quiet. And her and Kochan start getting pretty close. He kind of starts courting her, and they have their cute little moments together, like in the train. But he keeps questioning whether he really likes her or not. In the end, though, he believes that after a certain milestone in the relationship, like kissing with each other, he'll grow to have feelings for her. So now they're teenagers, and it's been quite a while. Sonoko's family knows that he's pursuing her, and they're getting prepared for some kind of marriage or at least official news about their relationship coming soon. Because of the war, Kochan decides to move in with Sonoko in the country house or in her country home, kind of farther away from all the ruckus. But it was in that moment that he finally kissed her. But unfortunately, while kissing, he came to realize that all his love was performance. He never loved her. In that kiss, it didn't start anything, right? The relationship is exactly the same before and after the kiss, at least to him. His feelings were never validated, or his fake feelings, I mean. So he just kind of goes home, makes up some excuses. He's like, yeah. Right? He doesn't want to deal with the pain of confronting Sonoko and telling her, yo, so I'm actually gay, and this whole time, all these years, I never actually liked you. Shit would be devastating. So he pussies out and he leaves on the excuse or on the premise of having some mandatory military work. Of course, Sonoko doesn't know this, so she's just kind of confused. But after departing, they kind of keep up this long distance relationship. Sonoko sends letters to him, love letters, and because he never had this sort of attention in his life before, he kind of celebrates this as achievement, despite knowing that he doesn't truly love her. He kind of views her as an achievement. Her falling in love with him is his claim to normalcy. He's always wanted to be normal. One of his friends convinces him to go to a brothel to finally get some puss. But after complying with him and going there, he passes out in disgust. So big time skip. This is like a bunch of years later. Sonoko and Kochan meet again. This whole time, he's just completely ignored her, right? Never did anything about the marriage, or never did anything about the relationship. After meeting up and talking more, to married Sonoko, by the way, because she got married like a couple years after Kochan left. But this is a couple more years after that. She has kids. She's a mother at this point. But turns out some of their feelings are still within them. She wants to start an affair with Kochan. But one day, in the summertime, they went out onto the terrace with all the tables, to get something to drink or something like that. But while sitting down, he notices this hot dude, near shirtless, like in his vicinity, in his field of vision. And looking at his muscles, like he pops a boner, he's like, shit, he's hot as fuck, man. And with typical Kochan fashion, he imagines him in ruin. And at that point, Kochan realizes that everything in his life has just been performance. Everything, like absolutely everything. Especially with Sonoko. He wanted her just to feel normal, just to feel like he wasn't unusual. So then the mask breaks down fully and the story ends right there. So the first thing we're covering, how we all wear masks and our struggle with self-identity. So throughout the whole story, Kochan lives a life full of self-trickery, deluding himself so much that he almost becomes one with his own mask. But becoming one with your own mask is impossible, right? Your true self will always interrupt at some point. Now our masks only worsen our delusion. His life of lies causes great stress for him. Now, Kochan's mask manifests itself in his fake love with Sonoko, and realizing he had been deluding himself, which ended up just hurting everybody, him, his family, Sonoko, and her family as well. Kochan and all of us as human beings seek to wear masks because it's natural human instinct, right? We want to be with society. But what even is normalcy? We chase an abstract idea. We seek wearing masks because we don't believe ourselves to be good enough, right? We want to be normal. We want to be with society. Is there any time when we are not wearing them? It's like they're chronic, even when we're alone. You would think that when we're alone, we are true to ourselves, but we still think of lies to feed ourselves, right? To make us feel more comfortable. We still have limiting beliefs. We still have conflicting ideas and thoughts and emotions. So, is there any time when we are being genuine? We wear masks around family, friends, strangers, and when we're alone. With Kochan, he didn't fully realize his delusions until the end. Even during his private self pondering that he does in the books, he gets certain bits of the actual truth, but he never becomes truly conscious of it. There were still little bits of his mask present when he was alone that prevented him from being aware. By the end, he had already come up with so much, right? That his mask had basically become him, and he has become his mask. But that's until it all shatters, when he realizes all the lies that he's been feeding himself. I know I said the opposite in the beginning, but Kochan, I know I said the opposite in the beginning, but Kochan had effectively become his mask. And when it was shattered and removed in the ending, he had nothing left. Is the mask him? Or was he the mask type shit? But after all this, maybe seeking to be truly yourself is itself a delusion. Both will never lead you anywhere. Both wearing a mask and trying to be yourself in the way that you're trying to completely be perfectly yourself and never changing around anybody. I think that's also foolish. Personal opinion. Authenticity exists, but not in the way you think. Little bits of our personalities exist in all the characters or masks we play. We need to embrace it, but stay transparent. So, keep your main values consistent, but to truly stay yourself in all circumstances is a pointless pursuit. How we fool ourselves into maturity in the trap of consciousness. So, this quote on page 104 on my copy really struck me. Just because of his act to appear more normal, which requires more introspection, he himself is more mature than others. This is something very common in adolescence, and I myself, and I'm sure all of you have felt this way before and maybe still do. Growing up and becoming more mature comes with it knowing ourselves more. But knowing ourselves more does not directly mean we ourselves are more grown up or more mature. What even is knowing yourself more? It could be false beliefs that we hold. Too much of this self consciousness leads to a lot of problems. You lose your touch with reality, just like Kochan did, inflating his ego by thinking himself more mature, all to numb his insecurities. I may not be so normal, but that's just because I'm more mature, is what a lot of people think. Feeling these disillusioned feelings comes with our sense of discomfort in life. People living normally and effortlessly never have to stress this kind of way. To think it as a quirk or romanticizing it will lead to your downfall. This ties back to my comparison with this in Notes from the Underground, where I'm like paraphrasing, but the underground man says something along the lines of excessive consciousness is a disease. And I believe that he was talking about something similar to what is in this book. Both Kochan and the underground man suffer from being out of touch with reality and romanticizing their supposed maturity and superiority over others. So, this fake kind of maturity that you think you have because you're not like other people, it fucks a lot of people up because people think they're a lot more than what they actually are. You know, there's like this false sense of ego that comes with this because, oh, I'm just more mature than others. Like, no, you're not, right? You're like, you're still an NPC. You're still a normal guy. I don't know. I think it's just something that we all have to realize because, like, I'm like this. I'm just like that. Like, he's me for real. And reading that excerpt in the book made me aware of the lies that I was feeding myself. So I think it's my favorite part of the book, or my favorite quote in the book. The final point is, are we to blame for our impulses? Nor did he choose any sexual desires for men in destruction. They were all developed in his childhood. He lived behind a mask his entire life, all because of his hidden feelings since childhood. But we are inclined to believe that he is not to be blamed for his impulses. But then, can we blame ourselves for any impulses that we had if they were never conscious decisions? Like in the case of Kochan, who never wanted to be a homosexual, who never wanted to be a sadist, right? He just wanted to be normal, but it was due to environmental factors in the beginning of his life that led him to becoming that way. We can cause ourselves and others much suffering for things similar to what Kochan experienced, like him leading on Sonoko. And of course, it is against one's better judgment to do such a thing. But in the moment, we are not so omniscient. Can you blame a murderer for murdering, a robber for robbing? If all actions are rooted in childhood, are we to blame for any action at all? Kochan knew what he was doing was wrong, but his mask fully prevented him from understanding and acting out against that. He could have stopped at any time and done the right thing. But if his mask prevented him from realizing, and the mask was built in his childhood when he had no control over it, once again I ask, is he to blame? This is classic determinism. Is Kochan to blame for his involuntary self-ignorance? Personal opinion. There is a grain of truth to this answer of never being held accountable for your actions if it was caused by some uncontrollable reasons. But when light is shown on these immoral acts, the responsibility is fully passed on to you. In the case of Kochan, he knew from the beginning what he was doing, but hid from it through his mask, a second layer underneath. The entire book is written by him. But what makes us know he isn't still led by a mask? We are all playing a character, and being the writer of the book is his biggest performance, far surpassing all others he had done in his youth. He was aware that he was doing bad things from the beginning, leading on Sonoko. There were many moments where he came to realize that he wasn't being genuine, that he was playing a mask. But his ill actions are all his fault, since the responsibility is up to him. And now the book that he wrote, which is this one, is kind of a defense because he wants to clear things up, and there could still be more. there could still be more masks that he's hiding from, or there could still be more of his personality that he is hiding from through his masks. No, both Confessions of a Mask and Notes for Underground are similar, not just because their protagonists are, but because they're kind of written like journals, right? Like it's not the author that wrote it, but actually the character themselves being the author of the entire book. Thanks for watching. It's my first video out. You know, I'm gonna keep making new ones, but I'm low key a slow ass fucking reader. So I don't know when the next video is coming out. You know, I'm still figuring all this shit out. But comment your thoughts. And if you haven't already, read the book. I recommend it. And get into Mishima's work. This is my first Mishima book. So I'm gonna keep reading more from him. That's it. See ya.